Hey troops, I want to talk about covenants. Did you know that God makes covenants with animals? What's a covenant? A covenant is a promise, a solemn promise, like a contract between God and whoever he's making this covenant, this contract, this deal, this solemn promise, whoever he's making it with. But the thing is, in the very chapter that meat eaters always use, Genesis chapter 9, verse 3, where it says, God said we can now eat the creeping things on the earth. If they just read a little bit further, we read that animals are so important that God makes those covenants, those solemn promises with animals. Not just humans, animals. And if animals can be recipients of a solemn promise from God, it makes them more than just a menu item. See what I'm saying? So I think it's going to be beneficial for you to learn a little bit about covenants. So let's pull up Genesis right now. I'm going to start in Genesis chapter 9. Like I said, verse 3 says the one meat eaters always use. Right after that, see, that's why you can't just read one verse. You got to read the whole chapter, at least the whole chapter. Sometimes the whole book to get the understanding of what one verse may actually mean, but whatever. So let me look over at this. I'm going to start probably in verse 10, right? Remember, Noah just got off the ark, and God's giving them some instructions: be fruitful, multiply, just like he did back with Adam and Eve in Genesis. And he says, I myself do establish my covenant with you and your descendants after you. Okay, God's saying I'm making this covenants with Moses, with descendants after you. And this is verse 10, and with every living creature that is with you, with the birds, the cattle, every beast that is with you, and all that comes off the ark, and every beast of the earth, I establish my covenant. Well, that's a pretty big deal. Well, what is this covenant? God promises he'll never flood the earth again. Like he just flooded the earth. Now we're moving forward. We're continuing on the timeline. And God's saying, I'll never do that again, because I can see your heart is deceitful. Why did he say that? Because as soon as Noah got off the ark, he did a sacrifice. And God's like, I can now see that you want to eat animals. You can eat the creeping things, but I know I can't get it out of you yet. He did go on later on to say no animal sacrifices and all that. That's a whole other study. I don't want to get too much into that. I just want to give you enough there so you can understand this covenant stuff I'm talking about here. So God's saying, I'm going to establish this covenant with you that I'll never end the world again. I'll never flood you guys out or do any major catastrophe. Actually, he talks about making covenants with the animals a few times. But what's really neat is he actually lists the animals. So there's no wiggle room there. The meat eater can't get out of it saying, oh, well, God didn't mean animals. He talks about birds. He talks about cattle. He talks about everything. It's a covenant with animals. God makes deals with animals. I think that's just awesome for our vegan activism. So let's go a little bit further. We got another covenant talk in Hosea. Chapter 2, verse 18, I'm going to read it to you. In that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, the birds in the sky, and the creatures that move along the ground. Now, what God's talking about here is he's talking about restoring Israel. And the peace that he promises in restoring Israel, it's going to include the animals too. It's as if the violence that we do to animals is what's gone wrong in the world. So that verse in Hosea helps out a lot. Let's go to the next one. Another one where God cares about their suffering. I think that's pretty obvious if I look to Jonah in chapter 4, verse 11. I'm going to read that one next. Let's see. Should I not be concerned about Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people and also many animals? Yeah, it says that. See, Nineveh was about to get destroyed. And he's telling Jonah, hey, go help Nineveh because I don't want to destroy the people and I don't want to destroy the animals. See, that's a whole lot different. I mean, that's a big deal compared to a world where people think animals are nothing more than something you can sacrifice. Okay, let's get some New Testament stuff here. Let's go to Jesus when he said God cares for the animals. In Luke, I can't remember it. I'm looking away from the screen because I'm trying to remember the verse I'm getting more and more forgetful. I used to know this stuff. Luke chapter 12. God says that are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. What does that mean? It's just they're so cheap, is what Jesus is saying, within the world of mankind, in this corrupt, fallen, sin-filled world. Animals, birds, 5 sparrows are only worth a couple of cents. But to God, not one of them is forgotten. Keep that in mind next time you order your chicken McNuggets, because billions of birds are being slaughtered every year that don't need to be. And it's just to satisfy mankind's gluttonous desires. So verses like that in Luke 12 are very helpful. All right, let's go to another one. So this is going to lead me to ask if animals are covenant partners. If they're part of the deal in these covenants God makes, should Christians be harming them? I don't think so. I mean, if God made a moral agreement that includes animals, that means he loves them, he remembers them, he's sparing their lives, like with Nineveh and all that. So if he loves them and remembers them and cares for them, then harming animals for an unnecessary reason, like food or clothing or fashion, for whatever it may be, animal testing, harming them may actually violate God's will in the covenant. I mean, if God's saving the animals in the covenant, who are we to take those animals he saved? Who are we to destroy them? I like to tie that into a verse that I like a lot from James chapter 4, verse 17, where it says, if you know to do good and you don't do it, it's sin. Well, if you know animals feel pain, if you know God made them and God remembers them and God includes them in his covenant, in his solemn promises, then shouldn't we care about the suffering that they go through and not force them into that suffering? Shouldn't we offer them the same care that God gave them? All right, that was my thoughts about covenants. I had a few verses pulled up. I hope they helped. I go into a lot more verses, and of course I'm going to make a plug for my book. Where's my book? Oh, didn't I say I was going to start promoting my book more and holding up a copy of? I keep forgetting to do that. So I got to do it. So there's more information on covenants in my book. Here. I'm holding my hand up here so I can digitally put it. I'm waiting. Okay, there we go. All right. There. I had to go find it in my media file. So there it is. Okay, that's the book. But yeah, there's a whole chapter in there on God's covenants. So you got a little excerpt, a little piece of it here. I'll be doing more of these. Thanks. I hope this is helpful to my vegan animal rights activists. I hope that as atheists you don't get too bored hearing me give Bible lectures like this, but it's going to help you to learn a little bit of Bible stuff if you're going to deal with people like me who believe the Bible. Well, not always like me, because I'm a vegan already. I'm already on your side.